First up, just your thoughts on this, and in the middle of the run down to the November election, what do you think this does to Donald Trump and the whole campaign?
Well, look, first, of course, Chris, I pass on my best wishes and thoughts and prayers to the President and his wife. I'm sure we all hope that he has a speedy, and his wife has a speedy recovery. It's a pretty unfortunate thing to occur to anyone, probably even more difficult for someone who's within a few weeks going to be going to the ballot box in probably the most important election in the world this year. If we didn't think 2020 could get any weirder, but there's still a few months to go, isn't there? So we really don't know. And in terms of what it means for the election, look, it's pretty hard to predict. I suppose I would think that the natural human reaction, though, is to have sympathy for someone in these circumstances, and that probably can't hurt any aspiring politician.
Yeah, I've got to admit, watching the campaign closely over the last months, I've been thinking that there's a Monty for either Biden or Trump or both of them to get infected. And it is a worry because they're both in their 70s. Because they're just out and about meeting people, Trump much more so than Joe Biden, of course. Let's have a look, though, at what the State Health Minister in Queensland tweeted about Donald Trump's diagnosis this afternoon. Stephen Miles says, have you considered intravenous disinfectant? So here is a health minister of your state mocking the president over his infection. Your thoughts on that?
Well, for a health minister, Stephen Miles doesn't have a very good bedside manner, of course. As I said earlier, I think almost everyone's human reaction would be to wish someone well in such circumstances. Whatever disagreements we have as politicians, I certainly don't wish ill health for any of my political opponents, and it's pretty childish coming from the Deputy Premier, nonetheless, of Queensland. A bit embarrassing for us in Queensland for that. But can I also raise a serious point here as well, apart from the embarrassment for Stephen Miles? The serious point here is that this is indicative of the dismissiveness that some health officials have taken to anything that's maybe suggested by the President. And those, and you're probably familiar with this, Chris, that the President, when he spoke about disinfectant, was comparing ultraviolet light to a disinfectant. And there was apparently research at the time into whether the use of ultraviolet light could kill viruses within the body. Serious research into that. And now Stephen Miles is the health minister and obviously knows nothing about this research because he's only focused on politics. And because President Trump has suggested something and people made an analogy to bleach, it's got to be dismissed. We've seen it with hydroxychloroquine. We're seeing it with these other techniques. It is really limiting our ability to respond to this virus when we're putting everything through a political filter, not what's best for public health. Yeah,
I think you're spot on. If you watch my media show at 8 o'clock, we'll have a look at how the ABC seem to do this. They want drugs not to work because they want to mock people who have been promoting them. I want all drugs and treatments for this thing to work. Staying on the pandemic, but looking at the responses, though, and the closure of the borders, this time let's cross to the other side of the country and have a look at what the West Australian Premier Mark McGowan said yesterday about opening up his hard border.
The other states want us to open the border so that West Australian tourists will flood east, not so that people from the east will come here. They're only saying all this for very self-interested reasons.
Yeah, and this is quite extraordinary. He doesn't want his border open. It's got nothing to do with health. And Matthias Cormann, who's a colleague of yours, of course, a senator for Western Australia, says this is anti-constitutional, that it's not what a premier should be doing.
Mark McGowan yesterday was running an economic protectionist argument in favour of continued state border closures. And, I mean, economic state protectionism is explicitly prohibited in the Australian Constitution.
There you go. You heard Matthias Cormann say that, Matt Canavan. What are your thoughts? Because I know you've defended the rights, at least, of the state premiers to close their borders.
Matthias is absolutely right on this one. I have defended states' rights. I believe in that. I believe that states have the rights to manage their own constituencies, their own jurisdictions in the interests of public health, but they don't have the right under the Constitution to do so for economic protection, as Matthias said. I mean, what an absurd argument, because what if WA was closed off to the world and it couldn't export iron ore?
Exactly.
This is absolutely madness. And And I think this does show, as I said, I defend states' rights, but a lot of the premiers here have become a little bit hypnotised by their own temporary popularity through this pandemic, that they get way ahead of themselves. And I think we will see a turn back and a quick reduction in these sort of popularity. You see it all the time with politicians. It's easy come, easy go. It's very hard to, well, not easy, but it's sometimes you reach the heights of popularity. It's just as steep on the way down as well, and I think we're going to see that with some of these premiers in the months to come.